How's it going, everybody? So today we're going to be talking about white belt struggles and some things that white belts really struggle with. I had a message from a subscriber of mine that watches my videos. He sent me a message, and the thing that he had to struggle with is a very common occurrence that I find in a bunch of white belts with my own students and things that I struggled with. So in this video, we're going to hopefully be able to help you guys out with that. So we'll get that started right now. How's it going, everybody? My name is Chasen Hill. I'm a Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I've been training Jiu-Jitsu for over 12 years, and I've been teaching for close to 8 years now. So I do different Jiu-Jitsu talks, breakdowns, technique videos, a lot of Jiu-Jitsu stuff. So if you like Jiu-Jitsu, this is probably a pretty good video for you guys. So before we get started, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button down below. I greatly appreciate it. Maybe even a comment with a few kind words or questions, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. So with this video today, we're going to be talking about a guy who messaged me on YouTube about his struggles in Jiu-Jitsu. And he's a white belt, and so I'm going to read off his exact message so I don't butcher it. I'm going to call this guy David, right, just to keep his name safe. So this is David. So David said, "Man, I keep getting smashed in my gym, but every time I go to try something, I get put on my back by a bigger guy, and I get tapped a whole lot by other white belts. I feel like I'm always going to get stuck. What would you do if you were me?" So thank you, David, for your question. This is a very common occurrence that happens. So give a little bit more context. He didn't really give me too much going off of, so I kind of had to figure out a few things. And after talking to David, come to find out, he had trained for a little bit of time. I think he had trained for 2 or 3 years, and then he had to take a break. And then when he came back, the people that he had trained with are now much better than him. They continue to train. They didn't take breaks like he did. So some of them are now, blue belts, maybe even close to purple belts. And he's having a very hard time coming to the conclusion that these students are better than him and getting more skilled than him, even though he took 3 years off. And this is an extremely common thing that happens, and there's a lot to diagnose in his question. So what I ended up telling him was he needs to stop comparing himself to the other students, right? You took 3 years off and these students didn't. And we tend to compare our mental journey or even our jiu-jitsu journey with other people's journey. So it's a mental headache. Jiu-jitsu, I like to say, especially when you get to a certain point after you're training for a while, it is still very physical, but it's extremely mental. If you can't mentally be strong and mentally kind of help yourself and push over certain things, you will not make it to black belt. And hopefully that's all your goal, is to make it to black belt one. Figuring out that, man, when I was first training, I was maybe better than this person, and now this person is better than me, and they're doing everything they can to me, even if they're an upper belt. Sometimes that's still hard to get your brain over. I even had that with my own students. I've had some students that, when they first started, they were much better, and then life got in the way. And then when they came back, these students that they were much better than or having an easier time with are now having a way harder time because the student kept training. You didn't train, and they kept training. So it's not unrealistic to think that they're going to either pass you or be just as good as you. Come to find out, after talking to him with a few messages, he was really beating himself up, and he couldn't really understand why. And then I had to kind of throw it back at him and say, hey, I think you're comparing yourself to these other guys when you took a break and they didn't. They improved their skills. They kept working, and they kept moving forward. You did not. You had life. You got in the way. You didn't have to come back and relearn some techniques and clean some things up, right? That's just part of the jiu-jitsu journey. It's extremely normal to have a hiatus. The problem is David's already actually overcome the hardest part, which he doesn't know yet. It's coming back to the mat. A lot of people will take breaks and hiatuses around maybe late white belt or even after they get their blue belt, and they never come back, and they never even barely train again. They maybe wait 3 or 4 years, and they come back, they train once or twice, then they're not as good as they once were, And it's a really big letdown because of where they used to be. They compared their journey to where they used to be. If he comes back and he continues to keep training and he gets over that mental block, he will be successful. That's the coolest part, is if he's been able to come back after his 3-year hiatus and he's continuously training, once he does that, man, he'll be good to go, because if he takes any other hiatus again, he'll know what it's like to come back from. Jiu-Jitsu is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not about who gets there the fastest. It's who winds up at the end of the race after, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. You look around and most of the people I was training with, they're not even around anymore. I have my instructor and the few black belts that were white belts when I was a white belt. But beside that, I've seen so many people come and go, right? And there were so many people that were way better than me that gave up. They beat me up all the time. And now if they came into the gym and rolled around, it'd probably be a different story. You can't give up. You can't quit. Even if you take hiatuses, you have to know it's going to suck when you come back. But you have to get over it, right? Jiu-Jitsu's hard and it's tough and it sucks. But that's why it's so special. If you can be able to power through it and get through it, that's great. With the technical advice that he was giving, right? Once, after I gave him that kind of philosophy and mindset advice, it was still, believe it or not, more philosophy and mindset. Because if he's not as good as these students, and this goes for all white belts, if you're rolling with an upper belt and you're not as good as that person, you should not expect just to be able to dominate. You shouldn't expect to be able to escape every position. You shouldn't expect to be on top for the whole match. Yeah, I have another video about mindsets of why you should do jiu-jitsu sparring, so you guys should check that out. I'll put that down below somewhere or above somewhere. But if you guys check out that video, I really talk about the mindset you should have about surviving and making it to the end of the round, and the different ideas you should have while sparring. And that's really targeted toward white belts, even though you can apply the mindset in upper belts. But if you're a white belt and you're trying to compare yourself to the blue belt and how well you did against them, or the purple belt and how well you did against them, well, you're setting yourself up for failure. Practice the survival. Relax, survive, practice on your defense. Think about not getting tapped out. Think about, look for your little windows that you can do to try to escape. If you're trying to power through on a takedown, or you're trying to power through a position and then the upper belt just reverses it and moves over, well, you wasted a lot of energy. You've probably got morally defeated, and it's going to be a long day. If you keep trying that, ramming your head into a concrete wall, it's a long day. Now, some people would disagree with me and just say that's growing pains and that's how jiu-jitsu is supposed to be done, and eventually one day your head's going to run through the concrete. I agree, it will happen, but however, that makes a lot of people quit, because a lot of people don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, so they quit. The best piece of advice I can give him, and to give other white belts, is if you're just running, it feels like you're running into a concrete wall. Stop running your head into a concrete wall. Relax, chill out, look for your good positions, look for your defense. If you're rolling with an upper belt, let's say this for example, okay? Let's say David's rolling with Johnny. I don't know who Johnny is, but Johnny's a purple belt, David's a white belt. And every time David rolls with Johnny, Johnny taps him 20 times, okay? David's next goal should be to be tapped 19 times. Then the next time, 18 times. The next time, 17 times, right? You increase the goal or whatever the objective is. Now, that's very exaggerated, because hopefully your goal is to get tapped less than 17 or 16 times. But you have to make the goal simple. It goes against Johnny, and he normally gets tapped a bunch, but he gets tapped half the amount of time. That's a win for him, right? That's mentally, that should be a win for you. So you have to have that mindset and practice those aspects. And then eventually you'll see windows, and as your skills improve and your game improves, against Johnny, you can maybe one day mount a good attack, or be able to escape a position left and right, or even be able to catch him, put him into a dangerous spot. But that takes time. If you don't accept the first stage of the survival and the control and making it to the end of the round, then it's going to be a long day for jiu-jitsu. Thank you, David, for the question. This was a great piece. I actually talk to my students quite a bit about this when they feel like they're comparing themselves to other students. You can't do that. You've got to compare yourself to your own journey. Are you better than you were yesterday when you walked in? Which I'm 99.9% sure you probably are. If you do a training session and then you finish, you're going to be better than you were yesterday. And are you still achieving the goals that you wanted to achieve? Whether that's, getting in shape, learning self-defense, becoming more athletic. If you're training jiu-jitsu, you're probably accomplishing a lot of your goals. But we get too much of this competition style, especially in our own gym, where I'm competing against my other cohorts, my other friends, or my other teammates, and we got to get away from that. You're not going to be able to last that way. You're gonna have to be able to compare it to your own self. So hopefully, David, this helped you guys out. If this helped out another person, hopefully it does. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe down below. Also, a quick plug. I just started a podcast. It's very jiu-jitsu heavy oriented. It's called the Chasing Life Podcast. I'll put it in the show notes down below. So make sure you guys check that out. If you like podcasts, you get to hear me ramble with other guests. It's pretty cool. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. And until next time, I'll see y'all.